Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown and predictions video, and for this week we got one of the best main events, most hype main events that we've seen in years in the UFC, with Dricus Du Plessis putting the belt on the line against Khamzat Chimaev, a guy that people have been wanting to see get a UFC title shot opportunity for years now. It's finally gonna go down, and the rest of the card, I think there's some really good matchups that are going to produce fun fights. They might not be elite star power, but I think this is an amazing card, and the main event is just awesome. So I'm excited to break it all down. Hit the like button, put a comment down below. Let's try to get the algorithm boosted as possible. That helps a lot. So put a comment, whatever it is. I mean, even if you don't got a lot to say, just put something down there. And hit the like button, man, and I would really appreciate that. But let's get in this first fight of the night. So starting us off on the card is Joseph Morales taking on Alibi Ildiris, and this is the finale for one of the Ultimate Fighters. Unfortunately, the other Ultimate Fighter matchup finale got scrapped. I'm not exactly sure why, but I guess one of the fighters wasn't able to compete, so this is going to be the only Ultimate Fighter finale on the card. And I looked into these guys a little bit. I didn't watch the show, but I went back and watched their fights on the show. I already kind of knew about Joseph Morales a little bit. He'd been in the UFC previously. But I honestly thought that Joseph Morales lost his semifinals fight to Rodriguez. I thought Rodriguez should be the one in the finals here. So Alibi is definitely the more impressive prospect to me. Morales, I rate him because he's very intense. He's big for the division. He has decent striking, serviceable enough, and then his grappling is tight. When he gets on top, he could take the back. He could strangle you pretty well, but he's just not dynamic on the feet. He takes a lot of damage, and he's not like the greatest wrestler, so he could struggle to get takedowns sometimes. And Alibi, he has really beautiful offense. His fight with Echeverry, I mean, that pressure and then the eventual finish that he found was pretty beautiful. And he throws strikes from all angles, both stances. He's throwing to all parts of the body. He's throwing kicks, knees, elbows, punches. His defense is a little awkward sometimes. Like, he looks vulnerable, but he's really athletic. He's pretty evasive, and then he's able to kind of just catch you with these big shots that either could knock you out or kind of really make you hesitant. And then his wrestling game is tight too. He can take you down, he can control you. It seems like his grappling is pretty solid. So I just think Alibi has him beat on the feet primarily. I think the kicks are going to be a big differentiating factor with Morales. The boxing could be competitive. Maybe Morales, if he can get on the inside and make it more of a brawl with the hands, he could have success standing. But I just think Alibi has too many weapons. He's too athletic, and he just is too dynamic on the feet. And I think that's going to make Morales have some issues. And I don't see him being able to really, seeing Morales able to dominate Alibi with the grappling. So I think Ildiris probably can find the knockout in this fight. So give me Alibi Ildiris to win this matchup. And this next fight, we got a rematch, actually, between Karine Silva and Dion Barbosa. At this point, Karine Silva's kind of past Barbosa, where she made it to the UFC earlier than her. She got ranked before her. She got big wins before her. She's the flashier fighter, where when she wins, normally it's a finish. It's fun. It's dynamic. And with Dion Barbosa, she has a lot of finishes herself, but she actually won the first fight between these two ladies in 2019, I believe, but it took her a little bit longer to get into the UFC, and now that she's gotten into the UFC, she's 4-1, she's done well, but she hasn't gotten that marquee win yet, and that's why Karine Silva, I think, is the favorite here. But honestly, I don't have a lot of interest in this fight from a betting perspective. I feel like it's kind of a sketchy fight that could go either way. Both have passed to victory. I wasn't able to watch the first fight to really know who has a better grappling and top positioning for MMA, which that's kind of what I was wanting to see, because I feel like on the feet, Barbosa is going to have the speed advantage, but I just think Karine Silva, with the pressure and the power, is going to have an edge there. And I kind of question Barbosa's chin a little bit. But if Barbosa can win the clinch exchanges, maybe get on top and defend the submissions and just stall it out positionally, then she could have a chance to go 2-0 in this rivalry. So that's what makes me not really too interested. Karine Silva's also coming in off of that loss where she was on a long win streak, and Viviane Araújo spoiled that for her. So you don't know exactly where her head's going to be, but I'm gonna go with the favorite here, Silva. I just think that she probably can get takedowns too with her big blast double, and then hopefully her last fight going the full distance after not having to do that for a while was a good experience coming into this one where she'll pace herself a little better. And I just think Silva is slightly more athletic and the better fighter, more dangerous, but honestly, it's probably a dogger pass from a betting perspective. And up next here, we got the return of Bryan Battle. And unfortunately for him, man, he had to move back up to 185 pounds. He was on a roll at 170. He went 5-1-1 in 7 fights in that weight class. And he finished 4 of the 5 wins that he had, but he missed weight pretty badly, and he missed weight twice. So I think that's why they made him move back up to 185. And he's going to be welcomed by Nursultan Ruziboev, who's 4-1 in the UFC, 4-0 at 185 pounds. And he has a couple major wins. He beat Bruno Ferreira. He beat Dustin Stoltzfus. His one loss, he also tried to drop down to 170. He fought Joaquin Buckley, and he took the loss in that one. He got wrestled in that fight, but he's won 2 in a row. So both these guys are coming in here off wins and some momentum. They're both on 2-fight winning streaks. Bryan Battle, he, in my opinion, definitely has the better boxing. It's just he's going to have to close the distance. It's going to be pivotal for him to be sharp early. Sometimes you'll throw lazy kicks and be a little bit stiff off the start. He needs to be better with that. He needs to try to get right in his opponent's face, use the jab, and his kicks are usually on point when he starts throwing them and letting them rip, but he just needs to be very aggressive. I think work the boxing here. Nursultan, 6'5" guy, he's wanting to keep the range and pull you into those big straights, overhands, uppercuts, knees, and he's not the most polished striker, but he has big power, and that length makes it difficult. When he connects, and he has pretty solid speed. And then his submission game is fairly dangerous as well. You have to respect it. Even when Buckley was taking him down, he was attacking with pretty good arm bars and things off of his back that were at least threatening. And but versus Dustin Stoltzfus, though, he only won because Stoltzfus was making mistakes in top position, going for submissions, and Ruziboev was able to defend and get on top. And his cardio is not good. That's a major edge for Battle. But Battle is reckless, so Ruziboev maybe could knock him out. But I just think that Battle is more technical with the boxing by a wide margin. I see him being able to pressure, get inside, and land. And I think his clinch and control against the fence, or even if he can get on top, is going to be there. Ruziboev, I think, has to rely on a knockout or club and sub type of finish. And Battle hasn't been finished since his second pro fight in 2019. So I got Battle via decision in this one, taking the dub. And up next year, I'm excited for this fight. We got Edson Barbosa taking on Jakar Close. And Edson, this is going to be his 31st UFC fight. Probably a future Hall of Famer, but he's coming off a 1.5-year layoff due to an injury. He was going to fight Steve Garcia in February, but he had to pull out. I don't think he ever disclosed what the injury was, but he couldn't make it to the fight. So the last time that we did see him was May of 2024. And in that fight, he lost to 5-round decision to Lerone Murphy. Prior to that, though, Edson had won 2 in a row. He had a win over Sadiq Yusuf. And if he beat Lerone Murphy, he would have probably been in the top 5, but he got dominated. He kind of got shown levels, and at this point, definitely just a gatekeeper with a big name. So he decided to move back up to 155 pounds, And he's fighting Jakar Close, who's a solid fighter, but a guy that's maybe been ranked at some point, but for the most part, always been an outside of the top 15 looking in type of fighter. And if you look at Edson's losses, obviously there were no rankings for some losses he had back in the day, but every fighter he's lost to would have been ranked in the top 15 in the UFC, I believe. So it's just about self-preservation for Edson at this point, winning these fights, beating these guys that aren't ranked that he has to beat to stay in the UFC. And for Jakar Close, he wants to beat a guy like Edson Barbosa, take his name for himself, and make his legacy bigger. And, obviously something's got to break here. But I honestly think that this fight is going to be a brawl, man. I think that Jakar Close knows that he can't afford to sit at distance with Edson. If Edson gets his kicks going, it could be a long night for Close, especially the leg kicks. I think those could be an issue for Jakar at range. But Edson, if Close can make it more of a brawl in the pocket, extend his combinations, his chin is just not that great anymore, and he gets rocked off of small shots, so Close definitely could put it on him. And I think that Close has that speed advantage if they're just brawling in the pocket. But the thing is, though, Edson's going to have a huge reach advantage, and both guys are chinny, so either could hurt each other if they connect clean. And if Close can't get him out of there with that blitz in the beginning, and he slows down just the tiniest bit where Edson can start to walk him down or control the center a little easier and use that reach, pull him into jabs, knees, things like that, and he gets a rhythm, I think that Edson's going to take over. And I would just say Edson has the firepower advantage by a pretty significant margin. So Close could maybe catch Edson and knock him out early, but I think that the further the fight goes, that's not going to be as big of a factor, and Edson's going to win the minutes. And then I think Edson could also get an early knockout himself, and I think Edson has a higher chance of getting a knockout in the second or third. He just has more experience against these higher level guys, so I don't have a great read on this fight. This is one of these fights in the comments. I want to hear what you guys think. Do you got Edson? Do you got Jakar Close? I feel like this is a close fight here, but I'm going to go with the vet. I'm going to go with the old dog, Edson Barbosa, to get the job done. It's not like he's fighting a young gun like Lerone Murphy anymore. He's fighting a 37-year-old guy, and I think Edson can get the win here. And in this next fight, Chase Hooper is a big favorite to beat Alexander Hernandez. He's won 5 fights in a row. He's undefeated at 155. He hasn't lost in almost 3 years. The last time he lost was against Steve Garcia, who's on his own 6-fight winning streak in the UFC. So Hooper's been really looking good, and he's been getting pretty favorable matchmaking, though. He's fought one-dimensional guys for the most part. His last 2 fights, he fought really old guys in Jim Miller and Clay Guida. His wins over Slava and Jordan Levitt were good wins, but I'd say both fighters are a little below Alexander Hernandez in the picking order of the weight division, plus Hernandez is just a lot more experienced. But Alexander Hernandez, he's a 15-fight UFC veteran at this point, 8-7 overall, and really up and down, but he's got some huge wins. He's won 2 fights in a row. And at 155 pounds, Hernandez has done pretty good in the UFC. He's 8-3 in those fights. He's 0-4 when he tried to go down to 145, so he probably killed himself to make that weight, took some unnecessary losses, but this is a crossroads fight for Hernandez. Chase Hooper isn't ranked, but he's on a streak. He's a solid fighter. If Hernandez wins this fight, that's going to be 5 wins in a row at 155 pounds for Alexander Hernandez. It's going to put him in the best position he's been in years, but a loss will push him way down the pile. And for Chase Hooper, he's 25 years old. He's taken less high-profile losses, so he can afford to lose a little more than Hernandez, but Hooper obviously wants to win, keep pushing towards the top of the division. And you look at Alexander Hernandez, super athletic, explosive fighter. He has almost a sprinter stance. He's super long-bladed. He's ready to explode in and out. He likes to counter primarily. He'll put the pressure on guys. He feints. He works the jab or some probing shots. He'll try to counter with the rear backhand. You'll switch stances. good rear crosses from both stances. He closes distance quick. He likes to throw nice lead hooks after his 1-2s. And he has power if he can connect flush. He's knocked out 3 fighters in round 1 at 155. But sometimes he could struggle with the range. He's not the biggest guy. He can come up a little short with his punches. And he can't get impatient in this fight because he will throw kicks that aren't set up well. And I could see that getting him taken down. So I would holster the kicks for the most part. And maybe look to use leg kicks, but try to time them and sparingly throw them. Hernandez doesn't normally throw leg kicks anyways. His last fight, he was throwing more calf kicks early, but he went away from them pretty quick. And with Hernandez, you mainly have to worry about the counter crosses from both stances, the 1-2s, the 1-2-3s, the 2-3 combinations. When he slows down, then you could start to put the pressure on and back him up, and he can kind of mentally fall apart. But he's gotten better at that, I feel like. And you have to put damage on him to get him in that kind of mind state. But Hernandez has serviceable wrestling and grappling. He doesn't normally wrestle himself, especially more recently. But, his last fight, he did get several minutes of top control. He's fighting Kurt Holobaugh, where, if you know about Kurt Holobaugh, he gives up the takedown pretty easy, and that would be a smart game plan for almost anyone to try to go out there and take Holobaugh down, which Hernandez was able to control him on top. But this fight, I don't see him really trying to wrestle at all. Maybe to try to steal a round at the end of the round or something. But if Hooper can pull him into that kind of chain wrestling vortex, I think that Hernandez could maybe end up a little lost. So he just needs to be worried. He needs to be careful not to give his back to Hooper. He did scramble back to his feet multiple times in round 1, even after Renato Moicano took his back in their fight. So Moicano's a good grappler, and he did eventually choke him, but it took him rocking Hernandez on the feet to find the submission. Same thing with Damon Jackson. He got in some dominant positions, but Hernandez was able to scramble, get on top, and his camp has been doing really well lately, so he's got some confidence. You look at fighters like Neil Magny, Muslim Salikov getting big wins recently, Brandon Royval having a Fight of the Year candidate, Justin Wetzel, he's fighting in the PFL tournament finals this weekend, so there's some momentum with Hernandez in that gym going on, and we'll see if he can pick up that 3rd win in a row. For Chase Hooper, elite grappler, he has long limbs, he has excellent cardio. On the feet, he's still rough. People love to talk about his one knockdown he had against Slava Borshev, but outside of that and flurrying on a gassed-out Nick Fiore, he hasn't really had danger factor on the feet in a lot of his fights, and he's a plotter. He's stiff with his movements. He likes to just throw kicks or long punches out there to get fighters backed up so he can clinch them, and he tends to almost throw kicks to give fighters a chance to catch the kick so he can get into the grappling, whether he gets put on his back or whether he could turn it into a body lock of his own. But he's going to have to figure out how to get to Hernandez here, though, who's going to be moving a lot in my estimation. And a lot of Hooper's recent opponents have not been very fast movers, have not been guys that move lateral, and they let Hooper get in on the single leg or the body lock pretty easily. So Hernandez, if he can use his feints, his speed, control the center, bounce around, not be stationary, it could be an issue for Chase Hooper. So Hooper needs to be ready to cut the cage off and avoid taking some big damage. But obviously, as a grappler, he's excellent at using his length to take guys down with body locks. He has a pretty good single. He'll use the single to get to the body and try to jump on your back or just get you down from there. And early on, it seems like physicality can be an issue for Hooper. He's ended up on bottom in a lot of fights in the early rounds, but he's usually able to wear you down, eventually either sweep you or get to the end of the round, and then in the later rounds he gets on top himself, and he's super effective from there. He's able to ride you really well, great back takes. He'll go for nice rear naked choke submissions. He has arm bars from the back as well, and he will attack leg locks and things from the bottom, but he doesn't have a lot of submissions off of his back. He more uses those to sweep, but he fights at a really high pace. He doesn't let you rest when it's on the ground, and he's a good cardio guy. But I don't get why he's such a big favorite here. I get Hernandez, can kind of fall apart, but he has the stand-up advantage by a huge margin, I think. And I feel like he should be able to stuff a lot of the takedowns If he does get taken down, I think he could scramble effectively as long as he doesn't fatigue. So I think Hernandez is live for a first round knockout and even could get a decision. Hooper, obviously, if he can get his takedowns going, maybe gasses Hernandez and you could see him winning a late submission or decision win himself. But I see value on Hernandez, and I think he has a much better chance than the odds indicate. So I'm going to predict that Hernandez wins via decision. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle where he hurts Hooper maybe early, edges round 2, and kind of a toss-up round, and then he has to survive some hard moments in the third and gets the win. So even if it's a split decision or something, but I'm going with Alexander Hernandez to pull the upset here. And in the second women's fight we got on this card, we got Jessica Andrade and Lupi Godinez going at it. New school versus old school kind of battle, with Andrade being one of the best female fighters of all time, a pioneer for women's MMA. She's the only female fighter to have fought in 3 different weight divisions. She's gotten finishes in 3 different weight divisions. And on top of that, obviously she touched gold. She had one of the most epic KOs to win a UFC title with that slam over Rose Namajunas. And I'm giving her some flowers here because this is going to be her 30th UFC fight. So that's a big milestone for her. And for all she's accomplished, though, she's 34 years old now. She's lost 2 fights in a row. She's lost 5 of her last 7. And she's been finished in 4 of those 5 losses. So on a bad run right now, but she's dropping back down to 115 where she has won 2 fights in a row, and hopefully dropping down gives Andrade the confidence she needs to perform at her optimal and get another victory in the UFC. But Lupi Godinez is in her way, looking to get that marquee victory. She has a pretty big win over Tabitha Ricci, but more often than not, she's came up short in those key fights. She is 0-3 against the other 3 ranked fighters that she fought that aren't named Tabitha Ricci. But she is on a 1-fight win streak right now and looking to build momentum again. She was 0-2 in 2024, so bad year for her last year. But both of these fighters have kind of been inconsistent of late, Lupi and Andrade. So this fight's going to kind of display which one is still top 10 level and which one might be on their last legs in the UFC. But for Godinez, she's only 31. She hasn't taken the same wear and tear that Andrade has, but she also hasn't garnered that high-level experience. So it's kind of give or take. But, you know, Lupi Godinez, boxer, wrestler, she isn't a great striker. She likes to plod forward. She'll have a high guard. She likes to throw the jab, lead hook. She'll rarely throw more than one at a time. And her last fight, she seemed somewhat looser with her movement, and she was trying to throw a little bit more, but she still doesn't really kick or throw combinations. And she took a year off after the loss to Mackenzie Dern, so obviously she probably tried to make some improvements, but she's still pretty much the same fighter. She has okay low kicks that she's added in, but I don't think those are going to really be effective versus Andrade. And she has some power, but she's low volume. She lacks speed. She has no knockouts in her pro career, so it isn't as if she has power to really counteract her low volume style. Even if she does hit somewhat hard, she needs to keep working on that feint game, on her speed, or on her overall volume. And if she could do that, her wrestling is already super high level, so she could become very good. But, you know, even though she has that really explosive double leg and decent control on top, she's not necessarily dangerous from the top position. She's more lay and pray. And if you're able to get back up to your feet or put her on her back, she will get tired. We saw that with Mackenzie Dern and Virna Jandiroba. So I think that she has some flaws there. But Jessica Andrade, she's always gunning for a knockout, and she's getting a decent matchup to maybe earn one on Saturday. She's been fighting girls that are way taller than she is recently and really throughout her whole MMA career. But in this fight, she's fighting someone who has a shorter reach than her, which the only other time that happened was when she fought Tisha Torres. So she's not going to really have to have as hard of a time closing the distance, because if Godinez wants to land or get in range to wrestle, she has to kind of get into punching range with Jessica herself. I don't think she's going to want to shoot blind shots from halfway across the cage, but I think Godinez's high guard defense is going to be advantageous for Andrade potentially, because Andrade loves to throw body shots. And for Andrade, the game plan, I think, is pretty simple. Sprawl and brawl, maintain the center, rip the body, pull Godinez into or back her up and land power hook flurries. And if Andrade can keep that pressure on Godinez, I think Godinez will slow down. If Godinez gets tired the same way she did versus Pilastri in the third round of like her last fight, I think Andrade could put her to sleep. Godinez ate the shots from Pilastri really well. She was firing back. She's a tough Mexican, but Andrade has folded many girls before. And her last fight, she was a little out of shape and she looked chunky. So hopefully having to come down to 115 gives her the motivation and she's able to, give it a good go, because I think she can defend the takedowns or at least get back up to her feet, especially as the fight gets going, if she's in good enough shape. And I want to see Andrade make weight, look good on the scales. And I don't really worry about her missing weight, but I just want to see how she looks physically. And if she looks good, she looks locked in, I think that she's a decent value underdog here. So give me Andrade to win this fight, either by decision or even potentially a KO TKO. And GM3 versus Michał Oleksiejczuk. This is another interesting one. Since joining the UFC in 2016, I mean, GM3, this guy is, man, nothing short of entertaining. He's the all-time leader for submission wins at 185. He has 12 wins in the UFC, 12 finishes. He's been a perennial gatekeeper, but he's picked up some massive upsets, and then he's taken some brutal losses off contenders. But 12-11 overall in the company. He's lost 2 fights in a row, but he's never lost 3 fights in a row, not only in his UFC career, but in his entire pro career. And he's fought over 50 pro fights. So, this could be career on the line type of fight for GM3. 37 years old. And if he loses, the retirement chatter is definitely going to really start to ramp up. But it's time to find out if Fighting Nerds Michał Oleksiejczuk is the real deal or the same Michał we've known for years. Michał, he's also a veteran in the UFC. He's fought 16 times for the promotion, 8-7-1, so up and down like Meerschaert, but he's a brawler, he's southpaw, and he's different. He's more of a boxer. He goes out there and tries to knock you out. He's not a submission guy. He has 7 knockouts out of his 8 wins. All 7 are in round 1, so early on, he's super dangerous, but he was on a 3-fight losing streak himself going into his last fight. He's kind of a nomad. He was fighting out of his garage. He didn't have training partners, but he found a home at Fighting Nerds. And after the knockout of Dricus Du Plessis, seemed really confident and happy that he found that team and aligned with them, and it feels like it could be the breakthrough for him. He's still only 30 years old, so if he does get dedicated and really ramps up his training, he could end up being a lot better. But he has to prove he can beat the type of fighter that has always given him issues, though. Someone that's tough to get out of there with an elite submission game. If Michał goes out there and drops him early, jumps on him, tries to knock him out, GM3 maybe could catch him in a submission if he's not ready. If Michał goes out there and blows his wad early, beating up on GM3, we've seen GM3 Homer Simpson his way to a submission win many times before. But on the feet, I think Michał has a big advantage. He has really good hand combinations. He's good at ripping the body. He is super durable to the head. He'll just walk through damage. If I'm GM3, I'm looking to land that southpaw body kick, but the thing is, southpaw versus southpaw, it's going to be harder to land that. Maybe you could try to chop the legs, but I just think the speed and pressure for Michał is going to be a big problem, especially because Michał is an early knockout guy, and GM3 in a couple of his losses in the UFC, he's got it knocked out. But, GM3, southpaw himself, decent jabs. He has power, but really he just doesn't have the speed and technicality. He doesn't move his head. So if you throw straight, especially if you back him up and use that lead hand, I think you can land. And I think Michał is going to have that effectiveness. But GM3 does have decent wrestling. It's just I don't know if he's going to have the wrestling to take Michał down if he's sharp with the wrestling defense. Because we've seen Michał in certain fights. He's hard to take down. Like, even when he fought Kyle Barallo, he arguably won the first round. He stuffed all his shots and he looked sharp. So I think Mihal, if he comes in polished up, he's gonna have a decent chance to get the first round knockout. And if he has a good game plan, which the fighting nerds are gonna have, he could win a decision too. So obviously GM3 is a live underdog, and I haven't really been the greatest with picking his fights. So if you think that he's gonna go out there and get the submission, go for it. I don't blame you, but I'm just leaning towards Michal Oleksiejczuk winning this fight. And my bad, guys. If I sound bad, I'm having some issues with my throat right now. I'm not feeling the greatest, but hopefully we can bow through it and it doesn't sound the worst. But yeah, man, I'm going with Michal Oleksiejczuk in this fight. And man, I mean, they got Bisanger Susurkaev set up, man. I mean, closing out the prelims in his first fight 4 days after winning his fight on Tuesday Night Contender Series, which was less than 48 hours ago since this is being recorded. Went out there, didn't take any damage. Front kick teeped his opponent, Taha, finished him in the first round. And he was asking to fight 4 days later with his training partner, Khamzat Chimaev, and his wish was granted. It's kind of like the Khamzat Chimaev 2.0 situation where Chimaev fought twice because of the Fight Island. I believe he fought might have been a Wednesday and a Saturday, or I don't know. It could have been 2 Saturdays. I can't remember exactly, but I remember they were having some midweek fights at that point, and Chimaev had that quick 2-fight run. But same kind of thing going on with Susurkaev. And I tried to tell you guys, I told you this guy was amazing on the feet before his Contender Series fight, and I thought he was going to get the knockout, and he delivered. And he's taking on a tough guy. Eric Nolan, this isn't an enviable spot to get into the UFC. I think his head is probably all over the place. He feels like he's fighting a giant, but he's a good fighter in his own right. He's has a win over Ty Miller, who just got in the UFC off the Contender Series on Tuesday, and he's on a nice little run of knockouts. So Nolan isn't someone that you could totally overlook, but Susurkaev looks like the real deal. And Eric Nolan, the guy, he's a good grappler, and he has solid wrestling. He is working on his striking. He's southpaw, but he could switch stance. He's kind of like a shifty guy that looks to move around laterally a lot, come over the top with big punches. He has good punch power, and then he could take you down and kind of hold you down, and he's always mixing it up. So he's feigning the level change, he's coming over the top, he's using the punches to get it on the hips and take you down. So he can get tricky, and if you can't kind of deal with this up-down game, or if he can connect with a big power shot, he can put you out. But I think the kicks and just the dynamic striking of Susurkaev is way too much for him on the feet. I think at range, Susurkaev is going to just have way more weapons, be way more dynamic, and he's super hard to hit. I don't think he's going to run into anything silly from Nolan, and eventually Nolan is going to get tired moving around a lot because I don't think he's going to be able to get that gambit of rest from taking down and holding down Susurkaev. I think if he tries to wrestle Susurkaev could maybe even win those wrestling exchanges and end up on top. So it's a tough spot for Eric Nolan, and I just think that Susurkaev is probably going to find the knockout. He's in shape. He just had a training camp for a fight that he won, and obviously he felt like he didn't take that much damage during the camp or the fight, and he wants to come back quick. Eric Nolan jumping off the couch for this fight, it's a hard one. I think the guy is underrated, but he's not going to win this matchup, and there's a reason why Susurkaev is such a huge favorite. So give me Susurkaev. I'll say first or second round finish. And the first fight on the main card, we got a flyweight bout with Tim Elliott taking on Kai Asakura. And Kai Asakura, signed to the UFC, immediate title shot, so that's never the easiest spot to be in. Obviously, any fighter would accept that, and they'd be in the title fight for their first fight. And with Kai, he was experienced enough for that opportunity. He'd fought some of the best guys in the world. He'd already beaten fighters that were in the top 5 currently in the UFC. So, and he didn't perform terribly. He just didn't have the answer for Pantoja, which not many people do at the current moment. And now he's in the danger zone, though, because he's probably a high price tag fighter, someone that the UFC is paying a lot, that they expected a lot from when they signed. And they're giving him Tim Elliott, someone that's closing in on 40 years old, someone that's been a perennial gatekeeper in the UFC, got that title shot off of winning the Ultimate Fighter, but really has kind of remained someone that's been like top 10, top 15 range. If you beat Tim Elliott, you can crack into that top 5. And more recently, though, Tim Elliott's been looking really good. I mean, he was up 2-0 on Chimaev on 2 out of 3 cards. If he wouldn't have got submitted in that third round, he would have taken Chimaev 0. And I believe he's won 3 of his last 4 or 4 of his last 5 fights outside of that one loss to Chimaev. So he's on a good run right now. But he hasn't fought in a long time. I think it's been over a year for him. And his last fight was at 135, so he hasn't cut down to 125 either in a while. And with his age, I think that is something that you have to talk about. I'm not too worried about Tim missing weight. He's a professional, but it could be a difficult weight cut for him. And we've seen him gas before at 125. But it's a decent stylistic matchup because I'm not sold on Kaiskar's cage wrestling. And I think he even indicated that, where he was saying that he wasn't used to fighting in the cage, because I'd seen fights even when he was fighting in a ring, he was getting taken down against the ropes. And then when he fought Pantoja, he was backing up in straight lines at times. And when he was getting to the fence, Pantoja was getting in on those legs and taking him down pretty easily. So Kai just needs to get better with his takedown defense against the cage and using the cage to get up a little bit better, and then just trying to maintain the center for the most part and not get backed up in general. But I mean, this is a pretty binary fight. You got Tim Elliott, who's a huge guy for the weight class. He's going to be looking at pressure, be his awkward self on the feet, and then wrestle Kai Sakura, put him on his back and control him. And for Kai Sakura, he's going to want to keep the space, use his ability to move in and out, use his speed, and show off those elite weapons that he has on the feet and why he's one of the best strikers in the weight class. And Asakura is that, man. I mean, the guy has amazing shot selection. He'll go to the head, to the body. He could throw all different types of strikes. His knees are disgusting, and they're going to be very dangerous for a wrestler like Tim Elliott. And historically, he's actually done fairly well versus wrestlers. He's a hard guy to control. He's wiry, squirmy. Obviously, Pantoja ran through him, but I don't think he's going to be that easy to just get taken down and controlled by wrestlers in the UFC. So I'm leaning towards Asakura in this fight. I just think he is going to be slicker on the feet, could probably hurt Tim Elliott a couple times or even maybe knock him out. Elliott is tough as nails. I mean, if you guys remember that fight when he fought, who was that guy? The deaf guy. He like got KO'd. He was like out on his feet. He was somehow able to survive to the decision. So the guy's extremely hard to get out of there. But I feel like even if let's say Asakura can't knock him out, which I am predicting he does get Tim Elliott out of there, I think he can win a decision as well. And I just think he's not going to allow Elliott to just hold him down and control him. And I think Elliott might get a little tired, and Asakura will eventually find the button on him and either get him out of there with a body attack or even a clean knockout. So give me Kai Asakura in this fight. And this next fight, honestly, don't got a lot to say about this one. Jared, he has a chance. I mean, if he comes with a good game plan, a lot of pressure, don't really open up too much, try to cut the cage off, and then force MVP to throw something wild and then use that to take him down or clinch him against the fence. But 41 years old, a guy that's not a traditional grappler, expecting him to go out there, cut the cage off, try to corral a super fast elite striker like MVP that can move in and out so well and then control him, that's going to be difficult. The leg kicks maybe could work for Jared a little bit, and if he could slow down MVP and land on his chin, he has the power to knock him out. But MVP is just so dynamic and elusive with that style, and he's not going to take any risks. I don't see him going first too much. I don't think he's going to open up. We saw his fight with Shara Bullet. I mean, barely anything happened, and he was able to just kind of edge the fight a little bit, and he's very good at that. And I think that we've seen Jared Cannonier come in and fight guys that are good movers. Like he fought Imavov, and he did a pretty decent versus Imavov, but he eventually got caught and finished. And we saw the Israel fight where that was one of the most dreadful title fights you've ever seen. I mean, Izzy was just able to leg kick him, keep the range, stick and move for 5 rounds. And I just think MVP is probably going to make it a boring fight and fight him to a decision victory and keep moving on up the ladder. But I'm not like, I don't want to bet MVP at this chalk price because I feel like Jared has a chance and he's going to be the bigger, stronger, more physical guy. So if he has a good game plan, maybe he can make something happen. But at his age and just the way that he's fought this style, I think it's going to be a difficult one. So MVP via decision is my prediction. And up next, we got a sick-ass fight, man. Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. And Jeff Neal, this guy's fighting all the best up-and-comers in the weight class. He's definitely a BMF. I mean, this guy says yes to anybody. He's coming off a win over another BMF in RDA, but that fight, I mean, RDA injured himself less than 2 minutes in, so it was kind of an easy, smooth victory for Jeff Neal where he didn't have to do much. And before that, he had lost 2 in a row, but it was against Ian Gary and Shavkat Rakhmonov, and the Gary fight was a split decision, so he still is proven to be, a tough out at the top of the weight class. And his opponent, Carlos Prates, is in the prove-it stage still at this point because he was on a big win streak. He had gotten some pretty solid victories, like he beat Neil Magny, a guy that has beaten Jeff Neal. But when he took that step up and fought a super legit contender, he lost to Ian Gary in his last fight. And that was going to be Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates, and then Jeff Neal had to pull out, and a couple weeks later, Ian Gary slid in, accepted that short notice fight, and got the win over Prates. So it wasn't a full preparation for Ian Gary and everything like that. Maybe that had something to do with it, but either way, we saw Ian Gary a little bit show potential game plan to beat Carlos Prates with movement, but I just don't know if Jeff Neal is going to implement that game plan. I mean, Jeff Neal has the ability, but the length I think is going to be a major issue for him. I think that the front kicks, the teeps to the body, the leg kicks, the knees up the middle to the body are going to be very hard for Jeff Neal to get around. And Jeff Neal, early on in the fight, is going to have a great chance because Carlos Prates, he's a guy that likes to walk forward. He kind of like plods in a range, hands down. And he has such a long reach that he's able to slip and rip and slide out of the way of punches, come with counters, and he can catch you with like weird angle punches that have a lot of power on him even when he's in close range. Or he can catch you at the end of his punches when he's longer and farther out, and he still has power. So he's just an awkward guy to deal with. And when he gets going and he starts pressuring you and forces you backwards, it's like you're in major danger. You're almost certainly going to get rocked or knocked out, and he's been able to put the pressure on and take out a lot of guys in the UFC. But he gets hit a lot too, and with Jeff Neal, if Jeff Neal is able to move around and then explode in with those big hooks, big overhands, maybe he could hurt Prates and compromise him for the rest of the fight or knock him out early. But the main thing that I think Prates has the advantage on outside of the length and just the weapons at range with the kicks is the cardio. And I think if Jeff Neal gets tired and Prates starts pressuring him and really picks it up, we're going to see Jeff Neal really struggle. And I think Jeff Neal is going to slow down in this fight. I feel like he might have a good start, but once Prates starts landing his kicks and his knees to the body, he starts going to the legs and kind of wears on Jeff Neal a little bit. I think we're going to see Neal's explosions come less and be slower, and we're going to see Carlos Prates start to really intercept him, land heavier, put the pressure on him, and I think he's going to be the first man to finish Jeff Neal in the UFC. So I'm going to go with Prates via second or third round knockout in this fight. And co-main time, we got Lerone Murphy. He's putting his 8-fight win streak, or I guess, 3-4 fight win streak, 9-fight UFC unbeaten streak on the line, taking on Aaron Pico, making his UFC debut. So Lerone Murphy's defending home turf here. He's taking on a guy that's coming over from Bellator PFL, and he signed to the UFC more than 5 years ago, and he slowly but surely moved up the ranks. He had a draw on his debut, but he's gotten 8 wins in a row since then. And I'm sorry, I don't know what I was talking about. So he actually has won 8 fights in a row. 2 of his last 3 were fight night main events. Now he's co-headlining a UFC pay-per-view, so he's right there knocking on the door. A win over Pico and maybe one more after that is probably going to earn Murphy the title shot. Aaron Pico, he's looking to take everything that Lerone Murphy has built in the UFC, though. Pico is arguably the most touted prospect ever in MMA. He was being hyped up to astronomical proportions before he even made it to his first MMA fight. I remember Joe Rogan was saying he was the Michael Jordan of MMA and things like that, but cold water was thrown on Pico's career right away because he lost his debut, he got finished, and then he was 4-3 through his first 7 fights. So he was looking a little rough, but since then he's shown why he was so respected. He's won 9 of his last 10 fights, mostly in dominant fashion, and his one loss came due to injury in a fight that he was winning pretty easily. So it's been over a year since Pico has fought because the PFL follow he had, he's been asking to fight. He's been trying to stay active in terms of training and all that, but he's not taking a warm-up fight here. He's jumping right into the deep end of the pool and trying to prove that if he wins, maybe he could leapfrog himself into a title shot. He was already going to fight Movsar Evloev, who I think has done more than enough to earn a UFC title shot. So the UFC definitely views him as one of the best in the world, and we'll see if Pico can deliver. But Aaron Pico, he's an incredible fighter. He's arguably the best athlete in the featherweight division. He's extremely explosive. He's elite power in his hands. He throws everything to kill you. I wish he'd be a little less reckless and set things up better, but when Pico can get inside, start ripping hooks, he's throwing to separate you from consciousness with every strike. He has some of the best body punching in the sport, and he's super good at finding body shots while blending in takedowns. He'll shoot, put guys on the fence, rip hard punches, level change. His cardio is incredible, so he can keep letting fighters back up and just take them down again. He'll just catch you with body hooks as you get up too. Calf kicks, I think, are something that he needs to get better at defending, and Lerone Murphy should invest in. Pico doesn't really check leg kicks, and Pico also needs to be careful about running into a knee or something like that while going for a takedown. We saw Adam Borix actually knock him out with a flying knee, so Pico just needs to be aware. At distance, Pico doesn't really do the greatest because he isn't a kicker. He tends to have a high guard, so his body and legs are there to be attacked, and he can close the distance without moving his head and get caught coming in. So if you're going to finish Pico, I think it's going to be earlier in the fight, and it's going to be catching him as he's coming in. But as fights go on, his opponents do slow down, and it's not as likely that you're going to put something on Pico like that. And Pico has one-shot knockout power himself, so it makes fighters hesitant, and he's dangerous on the feet. And he has amazing wrestling. He uses his hands to back fighters up, and his double leg is lightning fast. On top, he's getting better with his control and attacks too. If he takes you down in the center, he has strong control. He'll wrist ride you. He'll ground and pound you. He'll look to get the crucifix position, elbow you to the finish. He's pretty good at when you look to stand up, going front headlock and using that to snap you down, circle back to the back where he'll kind of just mat return you and ride you. Doesn't put the hooks in or anything, but his elbows are nasty and he could finish you with those. And amazing conditioning as well, and he uses his pace, which is a crazy pace, to break fighters. But Lerone Murphy, he's a high-level striker. He's a bigger, longer fighter than most for the weight class, plus he's fast and powerful. He uses a long-bladed stance. He'll switch stance. He'll use a lot of in-and-out lateral movement, nice jab, good rear cross, overhand, and he's good at just moving a lot and then planting his feet, picking a couple of nice punches, getting back on the footwork game. And his kicks are really nice as well. Sometimes he doesn't set the kicks up the greatest, but he throws quick round kicks, front kicks, body head, calf kicks, and I think he needs to be a little bit more heavy with the calf kicks in this fight and try to stay moving, keep his back off the cage, and eventually if Pico starts to get wild, then open up and look to pull him into some heat. But if Pico backs Murphy to the fence, he's almost certainly going to take him down. So Murphy just needs to be on that louder movement and the angle cutting. He actually is a different look for Pico. Pico's used to fighting a lot of linear guys, so the lateral movement could give problems to Pico, but I think the fact that Lerone Murphy likes to go high guard a lot, especially when he's backed up, is going to leave the body shot and takedown openings. And his takedown defense is getting better, but I would still say it's kind of average. He is decent at getting back up to his getting back up to the cage against the fence, but I think that it's a great fight, but it favors Pico. Lerone Murphy could clip him. Pico could come in and shit the bed because of jitters or the moment, so that's something you need to take into account. But Murphy's coming in this match on short notice. You have to remember that. So he hasn't had the most time to sharpen his wrestling or probably even get into conditioning he normally gets in. And that's a problem in this fight because if he wins, he has to either rely on a knockout or a fight that's going to be super taxing because he needs to use a lot of lateral movement. He needs to be ready to wrestle and get back up to his feet if he's taken down and defend a lot of takedowns and pressure. It may be a bit more difficult to corral Murphy if you're Pico, but for Pico, it's just pressure and wrestling, which is what he always uses, and he should have a huge edge in the wrestling. He needs to set his wrestling up with the boxing, but I think it's the wrestling that's really going to eventually open up the hands for Pico, and maybe he could drop or hurt Murphy with body shots or rock him with the hook. I mean, we saw Dan Ige drop Murphy. We saw him take him down. I actually thought Dan Ige won that fight versus Lerone Murphy. It was competitive, but Aaron Pico, to me, is a much better version of a Dan Ige. So I think that Aaron Pico could come in here and be successful. And I've done fairly well with predicting these Bellator fighters coming over. So I don't see him as a Patricio Pitbull or Apache mix. I think that he's going to be able to come in here and deliver and get a big-time victory over a guy like Lerone Murphy. And finally, we got the main event. We got Dricus Du Plessis taking on Khamzat Chimaev. And, man, there's strong opinions on both sides for this fight. Both are people who think Dricus is going to win. They're super confident in why he's going to win and how he's going to win. And people who think Khamzat's going to win are this exact same way. So that's the best type of fights, when the fan base is split and no one knows exactly who's going to win. So that's why this is such a highly anticipated matchup. And Dricus Du Plessis, I mean, this guy has been putting in the work. He went out there and he's taken out some of the biggest names, if not the biggest names in the history of the middleweight division, outside of some of the legends that aren't around anymore. And he's made himself undeniable in terms of being one of the biggest stars in the UFC. He's not only able to do work inside the octagon, but he's able to do it outside the octagon too on the mic. And he has a lot of fans and he has garnered a lot of attention. But Khamzat Chimaev, I mean, this guy has that aura about him that even though he came into the UFC really quickly and was dominating and it looked like he was going to fight 10 times a year and be a champ for 10 years straight, and that hasn't really happened. He's had a lot of inactivity. He's had issues with making weight and things like that, and it's been a longer road for him to get to this title shot. But if no one on fight night can humble Chimaev and give him that L, hey, he's going to be the champ eventually. I mean, he's going to be the champ if he wins on Saturday. And we'll see if he can be more active after that or a little bit more reliable. But someone has to beat him in the cage to really sink that ship. I mean, nothing has been devastating for Chimaev. Even when he's had to pull out of fights or things like that, the fan base has stayed with him, and he's still a huge name, and whenever he fights, everyone is tuned in. So, man, this is an amazing fight, and honestly, I think the value is all on the champ, because this should be a pick'em. I don't know how anyone could really definitively tell you, oh, one side is going to clearly win, because there isn't enough tape on Chimaev to me, or even Dricus in recent memory fighting grapplers, to be that confident in that outcome. Because, I mean, Chimaev, he's been able to go in there and run through multiple guys. I mean, many guys, the majority of the opponents that he's faced, really early in the fight. And I think he has underrated striking skills because the guy has elite power on the feet. And he's pretty sharp with the southpaw offense. But you could tell he doesn't trust his striking. And so he's pretty one-dimensional. I mean, he's going to wrestle you and he's going to try to get your back or get into a dominant position and ground and pound you out or submit you. and it's more than likely going to be in the first round, or if not, it's going to be in the second. And after that, I mean, he hasn't really shown that he could swim in those deep waters, which everyone is saying the exact same thing, but I don't know how you could look at the fight in any other way, because you watch him fight, for instance, Kamaru Usman, right? And the first round he goes out there, he takes the back, he gets super close to submitting the guy, but round 2, round 3, he doesn't have that same pep in his step. He doesn't have the same energy. He's not as aggressive, and he doesn't believe in his striking enough to really get in there. And I think he likes to have a super technical fight, and he wants his takedowns to count and hit every time. Like, I think he knows that if he goes out there and starts shooting takedowns that aren't effective and he gets stuffed a couple times, that could really drop his gas tank level. So he's very aggressive early, goes out there in that first round and tries to really take you out. But after that, I think he's trying to manage his gas tank, uses technical ability and defense, footwork, movement on the feet, to try to find his openings, but really just stay safe until he could get another takedown and then just control you a little bit. And you look at like his takedown in round 3 when he took down Kamaru Usman, he wasn't as aggressive on top. He was just laying there. He only landed like 1 ground strike, and Usman was even able to get up at the end of the round. So I feel like after the first, the submission threat for Chimaev really lowers. But with Dricus, we've seen him get taken out and put in bad positions by guys like Derek Brunson. And I just don't know if he's going to weather that storm early. But the thing is, man, I mean, Dricus is a really smart guy, and he knows he has to stay safe in the beginning of the fight. So if he gets taken down, he gives his back up, I don't think he's going to get submitted in the first round. I think he's going to know that, okay, I could lose this round. I could just stay safe, go into defense mode, and get into the next round, and then come back and continue to do my thing. And the thing with Dricus that I don't like, though, is he's going for leg locks and all these low percentage moves on the ground that are just going to get him in bad positions. So even though I like the aggressiveness on the mat, and I think that he has to do that somewhat to try to get Chimaev tired, he needs to be smart with his grappling transitions and exactly what he does. And one thing I am a little bit worried about as well is Dricus' conditioning when he has to wrestle, because we haven't seen him have to wrestle defensively in a fight in a long time. And the fights that he has had to wrestle defensively, he's gotten tired. So even though people are touting Dricus' cardio as like incredible, he's so much better cardio than Chimaev, I don't know if that's exactly the case. But what is the case is he has the experience in later fights. He has the experience fighting through fatigue, and I think he's much, much, much more composed everywhere. If the fight gets crazy, I think Dricus is someone that can weather that eye of the storm and be right in the middle of the tornado and just right at home, whereas I don't think Chimaev likes that crazy fight. I think Chimaev likes to be much more technical, and even though Chimaev is, oh, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to smash you on the mic, I think he wants it to be a pretty fight. He doesn't want to go out there and brawl you. He wants it to be pretty on the feet, and then he wants to use his technique to take you down and then just maul you on the mat, and that's where he will get aggressive and kind of grimy and wild. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards Dricus Du Plessis, man. That's going to be my pick here. I think that he could survive that early barrage and start to take over the fight. And I just don't know exactly how Chimaev is going to react down the stretch, if he's getting hit with big shots, if he can't get the takedown. And I already know that Dricus, even if he gets tired, has the experience in those moments. And I think that he's going to be ready to defend the submissions attacks of Chimaev. So, I mean, someone's going to look dumb with this prediction, because if Chimaev wins, he's probably going to run through the guy like nothing. But I'm going to stick with the champ here, and I'm going to go with Dricus Du Plessis to get the win at plus 200. So that's going to be my prediction, and that's the full card breakdown and predictions for UFC 319. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something. If you want access to my bets, predictions for other organizations, that is going to be at patreon.com/mmapredictionguru. The link is going to be in the description, so go check that out. You can get a free trial as well. And yeah, man, hit the like button on the video. Put a comment down below. As far as my most confident pick on this card, For the most confident pick, I guess I would say Alibi Ildiris would be my most confident pick. And for the parlay of the week on this card, I would tell you guys to do a parlay with Carlos Prates and Alibi Ildiris. So that's going to be my parlay of the week for you guys. So thanks for watching. Make sure to stay locked into the channel. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.